And so the goal of the sessions is to get really candid answers, particularly with a strong feminist angle that doesn't pretend being a woman isn't part of why we feel isolated and worn down and overworked and exhausted. My theory is that we're all like ducks on a pond and we're all like gliding gracefully on the top, but we're all furiously paddling underneath. But you look around and you see all the other ducks gliding gracefully and you think it's just you. But I assure you, particularly having done this for a few years now, it's definitely, definitely not just you. And so let's get together and talk about it. The questions today that we're going to dive into, we've got two questions. And then for the folks that are joining on Zoom, we'll do some networking. The type of coaching that I practice and the way that I break these things down is that your nervous system is triggered by a thought that often comes from your socialization as a woman, that we have these specific beliefs about how we're supposed to be in the world. For people socialized as women, our validation comes from our external sources. So people validating us either through our appearance or appreciating our caretaking activities or the way that we're showing up and being there for other people. So what happens when we get our validation from external sources is then we're worried that we're going to screw it up and then people are going to think X, Y, or Z about us. So if we're not doing it right, if we're not showing up perfectly, if we're not being a good fill in the blank and showing up for everyone, then we don't get the feedback that we're worthy because we're not socialized to look inward for that answer. So the really good news about that is that we're in control of both ends of that. We can take down the volume and stop the perfectionist stress and worry and overwork, but we can also decide in advance that we're going to have our own backs no matter what, that we're not going to shame and humiliate ourselves on top of any like mistake that we made or decision that we made. So my tip for you on this is to cancel the woulda triplets. So the woulda triplets are shoulda, coulda, and woulda. You'll actually never get to rest unless you put rest on your list of priorities. And sometimes that means putting rest on the list of priorities over someone else's needs. The others is, of course, we prioritize other people's needs because what I was talking about earlier, because there's no prize, there's no validation, there's no celebration of our contribution when our contribution is to ourselves. And so if we're relying on other people to tell us we're doing it right, or we're doing a good job, or we're humaning in the right ways. So here's my tip for working on how we can take care of yourself and still be present for everyone else. So here's what I suggest and statements. So I can be a good friend and not go to the brunch. I can be a good parent and not bake the brownies for soccer practice, snack, whatever, right? I can be a good leader and not be available 100% of the time for all office hours because I also believe I want to be a good parent